a second opening statement.
Oh, do I have to do that first? Oh, I guess I do. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. We have another opening statement here. This is for Washington Swanton Street, 40B. The Town of Winchester Zoning Board of Appeals meets tonight in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, 40B, and other applicable laws. Again, sign in at the entrance. WinCam will be televising and recording this hearing. In attendance tonight, we have the zoning board members, myself, Dorothy Simboli, David Feigenbaum, Mark Anderson, Haruk Gazarian, Andrew Clavette, and it doesn't look like Lauren is here yet. Lauren Jonick will be joining us shortly. Winchester Legal Counsel Lisa Mead and Tom Ashton is here, present, and Tom Ashton will be recording this meeting and producing the meeting minutes. The applicant is Brian Melanson of Melanson Development. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Who is being represented by attorney Mark Vaughn. The applicant's proposed project is located at the corner of Washington Street and Swanton Street, specifically 278 and 297 Washington Street, 12 and 16 through 20 Swanton Street. Mr. Melanson had initially applied for a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B for the mixed-use development of 60 rental units with ground floor commercial space. He has since revised his application and plans to reflect 64 units and made some design changes that he will speak to this evening. We will also give an update on peer review, accept new correspondence, take public comment, and tend to some clerical business, accepting meeting minutes and scheduling our next meeting, or actually 2 meetings. If town officials are present, they will be given an opportunity to speak and ask questions. As a reminder to anyone addressing the board, you must give your name and address for the record. In consideration of time, I may limit the length of all remarks. I'm going to suggest that we put a time limit of 8:45 p.m. on this meeting. Do you think we can get through everything by then?
Yes.
8:45? Okay.
We're running it.
Okay. Before we begin, I would like to take care of one administrative item, and that is I need a motion to accept the May 21st, 2025 40B meeting minutes and correspondence.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye, Mark Anderson.
I, Dorothy Simboli.
I, David Feigenbaum.
Thank you. Okay. So, moving on, we're going to invite the petitioner to come up and present the revised plans with the new 64-unit total. Oh, I should have. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Yes, Mr. Speed Reader, can you?
Yeah. Get ready.
I'm gonna. Before you say this, I make a motion to accept all the following correspondence that Mr. Anderson is going to read into the record right now.
5/13/25 Historical Commission comments, 5/21/25 Chastain comments, 5/22/25 John Serbier personal recommendations, 5/22/25 Chastain questions of ZBA, 6/11/25 Springer letter in support, 6/11/25 Lewis letter in support, 6/11/25 Shepherd letter in support, 6/19/25 Serbier Housing Partnership Board letter in support, 6/10/3/25 Danzel letter in support, 8/13/25 Attorney Vaughn correspondence, summary of proposed revisions, 9/5/25 Tool Design Revised Transportation Peer Review Scope and Fee, 9/9/25 Public Health Director Jen Murphy correspondence, 9/16/25 VHB Revised Scope and Fee Stormwater Peer Review, 9/19/25 Conservation comments, 9/19/25 Tree Committee comments.
Did you say this one?
And if I didn't say it, 6/11/25 Shepherd letter in support.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, Mark Anderson.
I, Dorothy Simboli.
David Feigenbaum.
Okay, now.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Pleasure to be before you tonight for the record. Attorney Mark Vaughn with the law firm of Bremer Bronstein, representing the applicant, Brian Melanson, Melanson Development Group. I know we had an opportunity to obviously appear before you back in May at your introductory hearing to provide summary and detail about the project and take some comments at that time.
Malcolm didn't know. If accepting this call. Please hang up. Otherwise, press any. Thank you.
Sorry. No worries.
Auto warranty.
So, we did submit correspondence to the board over the summer months indicating that we're in the process of making some revisions to the plans, and those resulted in the changes that were submitted to the board, I believe, on September 4th, which you should all have a copy of in terms of plan revisions and whatever changes to the overall design, landscaping that were triggered by that. So we had a brief PowerPoint presentation that we wanted to walk through, if we could, Madam Chair, that really the focus of this was, obviously, we introduced the site to you before and the project in general and the history, but this is really kind of focusing in on what the proposed changes are, and we can just maybe explain that. So have with me tonight, by the way, Michelle Quinn Littlefield, who was with Cube 3, architectural firm, Rich O'Connell of R.J. O'Connell, civil engineering firm of record, Scott Thornton, who was Vanass, traffic engineer, and Michael Radner, who was our landscape architect. So each of them will speak briefly just about some of the changes. But if you can go to the next slide. Do I? Oh,
Sorry.
I gotta do that.
You might have to drive.
What am I doing here?
If you hit down, it might just go to the next slide.
All right. There we go. All right, great. So this is just a reiteration, if you would, of what we touched upon in the letter that we sent back in August, I'm sorry, just indicating the changes. But and just a general comment, these are really being done to just make sure the project is going to be a viable project, to have a resident experience for the folks that are living here that we believe is going to be something that's top quality, where it provides the amenities and the features that folks are looking for today. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I think we'll touch upon them as part of the actual materials that we're going to walk through. But relocated the resident entry to Washington Street for improved visibility and alignment with resident arrival and departure routes, so you'll notice that. A new resident lobby with a secure mail package space, leasing management office, resident lounge, and amenity fitness center, amongst some other kind of resident amenity programming to be determined. We felt that that was lacking in the prior iteration of the plan. The amenity courtyard has been lowered to the first floor level, so it's directly adjacent to the building amenities and lobby. The resident parking garage is still going to be accessed and maintained solely from Swanton Street through garage door that brings you under the building. Residential parking is reduced to 85 spaces, and we can touch upon that later, but basically it equates to 1 parking space for every 1-bedroom unit, and then 2 parking spaces for every 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom unit. And for the reasons we'll go, we feel that that's more than adequate for this concept. There's actually a couple of extra parking spaces once you do that formula. But we have reduced the proposed commercial space along Washington Street from 5,600 to 3,800. We feel that that's a more viable amount of space to be able to offer here. And I know that there was some commentary as well just about, from some neighbors about having an overabundance of commercial space perhaps, but we feel that this strikes the right balance in terms of the 3,800. That space, we're going to continue to have a parking lot that's accessed right off of Washington Street to service that commercial space, and also being able to provide a resident delivery vehicle area there too. I think that might have been a comment that came up in terms of, what happens with the Amazon truck that shows up if they can't find a spot on Washington Street where you have the on-street parking, trying to provide for that. Overall, the building design has been modified really to improve building efficiency, the overall financial viability, and as I mentioned, marketability and resident experience. So actually, the building footprint has been reduced as a result, and the typical residential floor plate has been reduced by about 1,400 square feet. Notwithstanding that reduction, we do have the opportunity to increase the number of residential units from 60 to 64, which is shown on the plans that were submitted. All 64 units would count towards the town's subsidized housing inventory, SHI. We're going to have 25% of those as affordable, and as a rental project, it allows for the town to count all 64 units to that. The unit mix has been tweaked a little bit, so you'll see that notwithstanding the 4 additional residential units, the overall bedroom count actually, I believe, only increases by 1 in terms of what we were proposing before. We have a majority of 1-bedroom units, which was consistent with the prior approach, and I know Brian and his team feel that the 1-bedrooms are really the most, the right fit for this project. So just going to go to the next few slides here, but, oh, that's me, yeah, acting like someone else is doing it. Again, this is the site, which I know you're all familiar with, but it's at the corner of Washington and Swanton. It's about a 1.2 acre parcel. You see the buildings that are kind of overlaid on that today, the buildings that are there. Again, not to rub salt in the wounds, but this is the current appearance of the site today. Obviously, as you know, the town is the owner of the property, and having taken the property by eminent domain several years ago for redevelopment, affordable housing purposes. So this just shows, for context, what we're talking about. Obviously, the board is aware. This is along Swanton Street, just to give you a reminder again of the property in the area. So I actually, at this point, was going to turn it over to Michelle and have her come up and maybe take my spot here. So.
Thanks, Brian. So Michelle Quinn Littlefield with Cube 3. We're new to the team, obviously, but Cube 3 is headquartered in North Andover, Massachusetts, and we're sort of a leader in multifamily housing in the Boston metro area as well as across the country. So we engaged with Brian over the summer to sort of look at the project and sort of make some of those improvements that Mark has introduced us to. So you all know the site, as Mark addressed. So this is just an enlarged location plan with our proposed first floor plan, sort of over the Google aerial. The orange line is approximately the property line that you saw previously, right here at the corner of Swanton and Washington Streets. So the building orientation has mostly remained the same. With the red arrow and the white arrow here is just something of a little bit of a refinement from the last round, is that Washington Street is definitely a higher density street, right? So we maintained the commercial and relocated the resident entry to be off of Washington Street to really focus that density and that activity on Washington Street. And we've revised Swanton Street from a building perspective as well as a site perspective, really as a quieter, less active, as a passive side yard. So that's reflected in some of the things that we've advanced. So here's the first floor plan enlarged with a little legend on the right side. Starting on the page right, the commercial space is maintained at the corner at the 3,800 square feet that was mentioned. The entry there is through an arcade, which was in the previous design. It's been maintained here as well. And then the residential lobby is at that big yellow area. One of the biggest changes to the building massing was to drop that amenity courtyard from the second floor down to the first floor. So a huge benefit here is that there's immediate visibility when you walk into this lobby out through an, not designed yet, but an open amenity lobby lounge resident space. So from a tenant perspective, it has all the same amenities and features as a much larger project in a neighboring town might have, but at the compact Winchester scale. So the amenity spaces here were already described, and Michael will be able to describe the amenity courtyards a little bit more. That commercial parking that Mark mentioned is accessed here off of Washington Street. There's those head-in spaces were intentionally faced towards the building to minimize headlights towards the neighboring properties, and there's a sidewalk between those head-in stalls that if you walk along the dash line once you park, you'd walk up that sloped sidewalk up towards the sidewalk on Washington Street and enter the project at one of those two arrows. And then the blue rectangles off to the side, the units for the project on this floor have been located off towards the rear of the project. And then if we move down into the basement, so this is the underground basement here. The gray filled region is the proximate underground. The Swanton Street elevation slopes approximately 9 feet from the intersection down to where the garage is. So from that yellow triangle at the curb cut, there will be a slope ramp down into the garage. There's 85 parking spaces that will be secured here. The vehicular loop is actually more efficient than it was before. It's safer, it's more convenient, it'll provide better access for the residents. There's 2 pedestrian doors in the rear yard of the project. One of them at the top is that service door where it was located previously. This is where a box truck might park for a move-in, as well as for the residential trash to be removed from the building. The yellow circle on the plan is where the resident trash will be collected. There'll be a 2-chute system in the building, one for trash and one for recycling, that will only be taken out of the building on collection days. It'll be maintained in the building other than that. And then there is an egress fire stair that egresses into the rear yard and has a path to the accessible way. This is a fully accessible building, so there are 2 elevators that go up from the basement all the way through all of the residential floors. This is the updated resident floor plan. The 2nd and 3rd floor plans are the same, and there's 25 units on each of these 2 floors. Those resident elevators and those trash rooms come all the way up, and then there's 2 fire egress stairs on this floor that surround the courtyard. All of the units will have operable windows. They haven't been designed yet, but they'll have operable windows, and there's a number of units in the floor plan that have access to private balconies or patios if they're at the 1st floor plan, which is indicated by, you can barely see it here, but sort of the pair of swinging doors out. Those are those fully accessible balconies, which we'll be able to see in the building design. And so we've only submitted elevations so far, so wanted to provide a conceptual rendering of the project on the street, and wanted to walk you through how this building is designed. It looks very different than previously, but what we've done here is sort of followed the programming and followed the feedback that we've gotten to date, and really wanted to rethink the project. So we focused the program and the access and the density of activity on Washington Street. So we really started at Washington Street, and the elevation is composed by these 2 end-on gable towers. The one on the right is the entry into the arcade for the commercial doors, and the one on the left in this screen is the residential entry under the little 292 Washington signage there. So these end-on gables really took their form from the neighborhood. We did a survey of the adjacent homes. It's a very eclectic collection of homes, but one of the things we noticed, especially with those 2 homes across the street, are these end-on gable features. So we paid close attention to the proportion and the scale of those existing elements and tried to bring them in here to create a hierarchy of program. There's a brick base that grounds the commercial arcade as well as the residential entry, and it wraps around the sides of the building. Here it wraps down Swanton Street to the back of that commercial space. There's no arcade along Swanton Street. It is a passive side yards, but we did maintain the articulated piers on that side to maintain the brick accent. This image is exactly the same, but I lightened up the trees. So you can see a little bit how the Swanton Street elevation is different, really focusing the hierarchy on Washington Street. We didn't use any end-on gable features on Swanton Street when we transitioned to an articulated bay. I'll flip quickly to the floor plans. You can barely see it here, but those bays are actually not square to the building, they're angled. So they provide a nice dynamic element that breaks the roof line here. This is proposed as a flat roof building. And so those bays break that line to create a silhouette against the sky. And because they're angled, if you're going down Swanton Street to the west, you'll get one view. And if you're coming up Swanton Street from the east, you'll actually get a very different play on that roof line. We don't have a view of that today, but provides different shadows, different light, different vantage points. And then the base of the the body of the building, I'll say, is proposed as a clapboard slab siding with a thin cornice profile at the top of the building, just to provide relief and hierarchy to both the gables and the bays that break that roof line. We've proposed a sort of hung style window with a close attention paid to the proportions of those windows. Very historic, sort of vertically oriented, with a trim head and a trim sill applied, and those are applied as single windows or paired windows, as well as the mix of Juliet balconies. The three that are shown here, or the three stacks, I should say, are all Juliet balconies, so those doors open to the inside to let fresh air and light in, but there's no outside balcony to step onto with painted railings. And then the Swanton Street elevation, in elevation view, is very similar on the body of the building with that clapboard lap siding and those bays. The articulated window trims. The brick here, you can see it steps with right adjacent, it steps at that first bay, which is right adjacent to where the programming switches in the floor plan. So the brick drops below the residential units at this location to go to a more appropriate residential window with the lap siding features as well. And there are bands of soldier coarse brick at the water table transition between the base and the body of the building to create shadow, to create scale, and to create additional pedestrian texture. And then the garage entry that's shown here will have a secure door on it, so the cars won't be visible from any part of the street when they're in the garage. And then there is a physical board here as well that has some samples. Wasn't sure how the screen was going to render this, of some proposed finishes for the project. We started with the burgundy brick at the base of the building, which is a rich sort of dark red brick with a velour texture, and paired it with a historic putty color, which is very typical for sort of the Greek Revival end-on gable homes in the neighborhood. And we felt that the burgundy brick and the warm putty tones really created a warm appeal for the building. So everything sort of reads from that. The windows are a dark bronze or black, and the standing seam roof on the gables is a brown or bronze as well. So creating a really warm color palette for the project. And I will turn it over to the civil team if there aren't any questions for me.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Rich O'Connell with R.J. O'Connell Associates. We're over on Montvale Ave in Stoneham. We are the civil engineers for the project. Which button am I going to be hitting? That one? Okay, not yet.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
So
Down and up, yeah.
last time I was here, I gave a more detailed, we went through the entire site, the watersheds, the utilities, everything like that. And if we hadn't changed the building, we probably would have had the peer review done by now, or at least in process, and there'd be something more to talk about. But that hasn't happened, so I'm just gonna hit some highlights. I'm not gonna go back into the details. So one of the things that hasn't changed is existing conditions. That has remained the same. We've got about an acre site. There is about 23% roof area, 71% paved area, and less than 6% impervious, a pervious area. So the site is about 94% impervious. So it's like the last meeting, 1 acre of uncontrolled runoff going out into the street. Down? Yeah. The site plan, Michelle did a pretty good job of going through the site plan. The building has been reduced a little bit, which gives us more pervious area, which is good. It makes all our numbers, we crunched through them all and submitted another stormwater report. But it just makes everything a little better because we get a little more area. We moved, we got some outdoor parking now to take care of the commercial. We were able to increase the setbacks along that southerly side from the previous plan. As you remember, the building went almost over to the property line before, so we've got better setbacks on that side. So increase in the impervious area, we've gone from less than 6% to over 20%. We've decreased the paved area by over 45%. Everything's sort of heading in the right direction. The drainage has not changed much. We kept the catchment areas the same. There's 3 major catchment areas in the proposed conditions. it's sort of split 50/50, half acre going to Swanton Street, half acre going to Washington Street. That's pretty much remained the same. Again, the numbers get a little better because we have more pervious area. And we were able to reduce the rates of the stormwater, 10% to 27%, and the volumes from 14% to 28%. Now, that's not much different from before, but it's better than before. And we're reducing the volume to Swanton Street, which is very important here, by about 40%, because Swanton Street has a historical flooding problem, and that was one of the early on things that we talked to the town about, was trying to relieve that. So we've got, we still have that reduction of over 40% to Swanton Street. Again, it would be nice if there was a peer review. I'm sure we're gonna have one by next time, but just a summarization of the civil and site design. Major utilities, sewer, water, gas, electric, stormwater, they're all available in Washington and Swanton Streets. We're going to be collecting the uncontrolled and untreated existing sheet flow, about an acre, a little over an acre. We're increasing the groundwater recharge by increasing the green area, reducing paved area by almost 50%, reducing the runoff volume to Swanton Street by over 40%, reducing the overall runoff volumes 14 to 28%, and then we're cleaning this runoff, 90% TSS removal. TSS is very important. That's your dirt, it's your grit, total suspended solids. It's the sand, it's the grit, the dirt that's just running out into the street and into the catch basins. Now, we got 97% capture on that from virtually zero now. And then the removal of 70% total phosphorus. Total phosphorus is something that's coming up real big. It's impacting all of the rivers, the Mystic River, the Abajona. They're all gonna have these TMDLs coming along. So this is gonna be good for the town because they get to put it in their MS4 reports coming down the line. So kind of an overview. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more to come on this once the peer review's out. I'll be here if there's any questions, and I think we're going to Scott next? Yeah, so, thank you. Scott.
Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
For the record, Scott Thornton with Vanessa and Associates. Our offices are in Andover. We prepared the traffic study. We also prepared a letter dated September 2nd to address the changes in the project build program. With the changes that have been discussed previously, the reduction in the commercial space and the increase in the number of residential units, we're expecting a decrease in project-generated traffic. And that's because the commercial space is a more intensive trip generator than the residential is. So this chart is pulled out of the September 2nd letter and synthesized a little bit. But you can see that, you know, the current development program has, which is the column in the middle on the left, that has the number of trips for the morning and the evening and the Saturday midday peak hours. The previous development program is just next to that. And you can see the decrease of the delta, which shows anywhere between 3 and 13 trips fewer during the peak hours and between 92 and 102 trips fewer on a daily basis. And, you know, with the reduction in the commercial space, that means fewer delivery vehicles, less traffic impacts in general. And the project didn't really have a significant effect on operations at the study area intersections, but now would have an even lower impact at these locations. And then the other thing I wanted to discuss was the parking, which we looked at some data, and with the current makeup of the project, with 85 spaces for 64 units, that works out to be a rate of 1.33 spaces per unit. As it compares with data that we have in the area, the perfect fit parking study that was developed by Metropolitan Area Planning Council. They're looking at, I think they're up to 260 multifamily units so far in their study area, and what they've identified is that the demand rate for these developments is on average about 0.75 spaces per unit. I took a look at the data for municipalities as close to adjacent to Winchester, which was Arlington and Melrose and Waltham. Not quite the same thing, but there's no sites in the perfect fit parking that are in Winchester. But even that sort of condensed area, or area that's closest to Winchester, is coming in at about 0.95 spaces per unit with the demand ratio. Then when we look at Urban Land Institute for multifamily developments, their rate is coming in at about 1.22 spaces per unit for a multifamily development. And, we do a lot of multifamily developments in the greater Boston area. I've heard developers indicate that the sweet spot seems to be about 1.2 spaces per unit. And we're going to have more than that, up to 1.33. 11 commercial spaces on site, separate from the residential parking, could be used by residential visitors on nights and during off-hour times. And I think, I mentioned it last time when we were here in May, but the site is within, and it's within 15 to 20 minutes of the nearest bus stop and the Winchester Center Station, which is fully operational now. All of those, or both of those facilities run 7 days a week, which we think is important, really encourages people who don't have a car or don't need to have a car to live in this type of setting. So just to summarize, the data and the research that we have indicates that the parking supply should address the demand for the project. I'm going to turn it over to Michael to go over landscaping, and we'll be here for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Michael Radner with High Point Engineering, 980 Washington Street in Dedham. And we're landscape architects. So here is the overall landscape plan. All these green areas are at the ground level, as it were, and I'm just going to take you through just sort of dividing this up into certain segments of the site with some supporting imagery here. And I think, as Michelle indicated earlier, the circulation patterns, basically front, and Swanton Street is at the top of the site and Washington is on the right side. So we do have the 11 parking spaces on the lower right, and you can see the sidewalk and that sort of putty tone concrete sidewalk that you would circulate around to the Washington Street side and then come up into the residential entry, which is that little stairway there. You can see about 2 risers. There's about a foot of grade change from the street up into that level. That's how you enter the residential area. There is a little, I'm not going to call it a ramp, it's just a sloped walkway from the lower right corner of where the 2 sidewalks meet there, that you have an accessible entry. And then just below that, you can see, a little bit hard to see, but you can see the bike racks, and there's parking for 6 bicycles outside. You can see we have a little semicircular sitting area, just sort of try to activate the Washington Street space, informal seating there in that brown tone, and then up above that is the entrance to the commercial/retail space. And you can see those little brown areas there, and what we've done, if you look at the left side, you can see some imagery of this wood top seating. They call it a piano key bench for obvious reasons. Those are wood slats that run across there so that it's a very warm-toned, comfortable place to sit. And you can see that, I'll call it salmon-colored, or brick-colored because it's brick, On the right side along Washington Street, along the curb line there, we're going to do a 2-foot wide brick strip as well. I already talked about the bikes on the lower right. There's some imagery for that. And on the bottom and to the left side, the red dashed line is a 6-foot opaque fence. I believe the town had replaced that fence recently. Thank you. So that remains in place at that location, and you can see an image of that. That fence looks very similar to that as well. About the planting, this is really the same as was in our last submission. It's basically the same approach. Along the south side of the site and the west side of the site, we're going to have some fairly robust, large shrub plantings, a mix of deciduous and evergreen. You can see the shrub border image on the lower right. On the Swanton Street side, on the right side, ornamental trees and planters. We've actually increased the green area quite a bit along this side, and those are small trees to just sort of enliven that space. And typically retailers don't want to have large trees in front of their storefronts, so we go with something a little bit smaller and decorative. And then on the Swanton Street side, on the top, is the same organization of street trees along that edge as well. And we're suggesting the Armstrong maple there, which is has a nice architectural form to it, great fall color, and so forth. And then on the lower left, we have our rain garden with a mix of native plants as well as a surface catchment for rainwater. And I'll just go back to this one. You can see the green area to the left of the parking. Sometimes it's just good to have lawn, so we're just trying to have, give some more open space for residents to, you can take out a chair or a blanket or read a book on a nice soft green space there. So that was the intention there. If we go to the lighting plan, there's 3 types of lighting on the site. The parking lot fixtures on the bottom, in the bottom rectangle, we only need 2 site light poles there. They're 15 foot high, which is very sort of modest scale to those fixtures. And the images on the left side, those are dark sky fixtures. They're LED for energy efficiency. Those will have what they call a house side shield on the back of those fixtures, so to shield the neighbors to the south, so that they don't have any light spill over there. And in the package is a photometric plan that demonstrates all these lighting levels. We have some wall-mounted lights above the parking stalls just to light that sidewalk there, and those are only going to be at about 3 feet high. So again, just sort of minimal safety lighting there. And then along the right side, which is a little bit hard to see, we're going to have that center image is the bollard light, which is about 3 feet high, and that will also light those pedestrian areas and planting areas as well. And then the last slide is our colored up version of the amenity space. And again, that was mentioned, that's now at the first floor level. So what we try and do is break up the space so that it's some different seating areas for the residents. There's a little grill station at the lower right corner there with 2 grills. We have some trees that are going to be in raised planters to provide some shade. So, and a little bit of artificial turf. We don't really want to water lawn and that natural lawn in that area. It's very, very difficult to upkeep that. So a little bit of artificial turf is good for long term. And then you can see the green area there, sort of in between the unit patios and the common spaces. And we have some supporting images there that would, possibility of putting out lawn games or just sort of informal passive recreation. And I'll go back to Mark.
That concludes our presentation or summary of the changes. So I know that
I'm not sure if your peer review is there a representative of Tool that's here tonight? Or I didn't know where they stood in terms of the traffic peer review.
I don't think we have, yeah.
No, we don't have a representative
okay.
from Tool. Let me see what,
It says they received green light on 9/10/25 and may provide comments by the next meeting, is the note we have here.
right.
Okay.
There's also a design review.
Yes.
What's the status of the design peer review?
Well, I don't believe that you actually have you finalized a scope with the design consultant yet?
No, I think we haven't.
We have to discuss that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse
So
me
we-
for
yeah.
jumping ahead.
No, it's okay.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead, you can.
My heart just raced thinking that I missed an email or something, but yeah, all right.
You can slow it down.
There you go.
I guess while we're on peer review, I'll say that the stormwater is waiting, I think, on the check. Sounds
Yes,
like.
we understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are on that in terms of doing the check to VHB?
Yes, I did email Matt Schuman a couple of days ago. I know he was out of the office, just in terms of what the anticipated timing was of that, perhaps for purposes of when you may want to schedule your next meeting. But I'm assuming that if you have a meeting sometimes towards the latter part of October, that would provide enough time for them to turn something around, but.
Okay. And then, are we going to address the scope of the design peer review? Where are you at that, with that?
Well, there's been a proposal provided, and the cost is $12,000 by Carlone. Do you have that? Have you gotten that?
I actually just got it this week, so I do have a copy of it. So,
I spoke with him at some length,
yeah,
and then he provided the estimate. And I think it's important, obviously.
if he reviews it and likes it and has no comment, then does he use all of the 12,000? Or how does that work, I guess? Is it a iterative or?
I don't think it's gonna work that way, but I'm not certain. I'm not certain.
Okay,
I'm thinking that he charges by the hour, and the 12,000 will be a max, but he says 12,000 for a 3-month period based on stated scope. So it isn't clear, it isn't exactly clear.
So Jay and I talked about this, Madam Chair. So the scope seems a little broad and intense for the project. So it has 2 to 3 meetings for the developer and the architecture team, and 1 team for the zoning coordinator, 1 meeting for the zoning coordinator, and then 2 to 3 meetings with the ZBA and presentations. I don't think that seems like a lot. You're not gonna need 2 to 3 meetings with you, and I don't think you're gonna need 2 to 3 meetings between the developers, architecture team, and in our experience, those are a lot of meetings to have. And so potentially that's why the fee is $12,000, because that's a lot of meetings.
How many meetings do you think is appropriate?
I mean, I would say 1 meeting with the developers and architects team, probably, and 1 to 2 meetings with the ZBA, it would seem.
I don't know how to do
Um,
it. It's a little bit hard, it's
I would
difficult.
defer to town council on this, since they've reviewed a lot of these 40Bs, and I think the developer has gone through and has revised it, to a huge extent. So, given the new design, I mean, if we were working with the old design, maybe we would need that many meetings, but with the new design, I feel like they've put in the labor, they've put in the hours already. I think we can probably cut back the number of meetings.
Yeah, I mean, you have an architecture team this is what they do, right? These multifamily housing, obviously, you've got a new design, but, it would seem to be 1 to 2 meetings with the developer's architect team and the design review and, you know, 1 meeting to 2 meetings max with the ZBA. I just don't, I don't think you need 3
That's
for each
enough
of
to,
those.
yeah, I think that's enough to.
Well, what you just described sounds okay to me.
Yeah,
But I would also say, what if we get to the point where you say you've had enough meetings and we say, not quite?
so then you-
Then what are we
The
gonna do?
scope, the
Then
scope
what do
has
we
in
do?
there that anything extra will be billed hourly, so.
right, so, I mean, if you typically the way the peer reviews work is you say it's gonna be $10,000 or $12,000, you pay that amount of money, and then if they only use 8, they only use 8, and it goes back. But if things go off the rails and it costs 15, they have to put another $3,000 in, right? That's the way it works.
Okay.
So right now, the 12 is an estimate.
The 12 is an estimate.
Based off
and
of
it's
that
based
number of
on,
meetings, though.
You know, it's based on all those meetings. So the developer could give the 12, but I really don't think all those meetings are necessary. And then you would get the money back.
And you've seen their proposal? You've seen
Yeah,
Carmen's?
I'm looking at their proposal right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments on that?
No, it's all, I mean, the outline it represents the, you know, recognition of the 40B requirements and things of that nature, and the general design guidelines the town has, which I presume, given what I've seen here, is reflected in this design. So, I don't have any other issues with it. I just thought that the meeting schedule was heavy.
So how do we normally do this? Would he put up the 12, if we were saying, no, we want 12,000,
Yeah,
we'd expect him to put up the 12,000 now?
yeah, and then
Yeah,
I don't
well,
expect to use it.
I don't see that that's.
But I would say that you definitely need to communicate to Dennis that we're reducing the number of meetings that
Set
we're
an
anticipating.
expectation that it's 1 to 2 with the design
Right.
team and 1 to 2 with us. right?
Correct.
And price your initial estimate based off that. Obviously, if things get to your
Yeah.
point, go off the rails, right, we have a methodology for handling that.
So it seems as though I should call him, figure out what he thinks it ought to be,
Yeah, just
given that.
Lop off a couple meetings and what is
Right.
the,
Well,
what's
you
the
mean what
retainer
the,
now?
what the estimate would be?
Just
Yeah.
tell him to
Yeah.
reduce that part of the scope and get a new estimate.
Yeah.
Right.
okay. I'll do that.
Attorney Vaughn, are you comfortable with that? Do you have any other comments? Oh, you didn't really get a chance to look at the scope?
Yeah, no, I looked at it. I appreciate what Lisa Mead has mentioned. It did seem like there were a number of anticipated meetings, which I may be going back to the outset of what I said. I was hopeful that maybe looking at this, he doesn't need to have as much back and forth as one might necessarily have. I know he was basing this off of the initial design too, keep in mind, so I think that, you know, a lot of these things have been thought through more. So we would hope that it could be done on a more efficient, cost-effective basis.
And does that change his time frame too, I guess? You know, it's a 3 months with this window, but.
Yeah, it
another-
should not take 3 months.
Yeah, so it should shorten down, presumably if there's fewer meetings and fewer.
So I'm sorry, my mind wandered and I've lost track. Are we gonna have you put up the money
No, I think,
up front, or
no.
will we?
Well, nonetheless, you have to put up the money up front. We just need to tell them what the new revised dollar amount will be, right?
Right, you have to
It
get
might
a
go
new
from 8 to
revised
12,
dollar
8 or
amount.
You need-
12,
yeah.
8, right?
Go back to Dennis.
I'll go back to him, ask him what it is. Come back here?
I mean, you're
Next
more than
meeting?
welcome to, yeah, you can present the new plans to him too if you want, and just say,
Yeah.
And I don't
you know,
think,
it's
correct
not
me
gonna
if I'm wrong.
require as much time on his part, it's not gonna require as many meetings on our part,
Well,
and to give
he's-
us a
yeah.
new,
Shouldn't
He's
require
quite
3 months of
reasonable.
time.
And I don't think you need to come back.
I was about to say, I don't think we need to come back to
another
talk
meeting. I
about it,
think
right?
If you get the revised scope, you can give it to the applicant can pay the money and they can start the review.
right,
I don't think this is gonna be a problem. I
Right.
think he's reasonable and.
okay. Well, do you want to talk about schedule first? I have some questions, but do we want to talk about the scheduling of, like, for the next meeting, we're going to be talking about VHB possibly?
Hopefully,
or-
Tool and VHB, hopefully. I guess if we put it later in October, sorry to jump in, Dorothy, but
And
that's
then,
5 weeks from now,
and
right?
then, design would be in November? I mean, is that too aggressive?
Do we need to schedule design now or wait to hear back what this,
You
Yeah.
could schedule it in, you could say your goal is November.
Yeah.
And then put the date in, when you meet in October.
Yeah.
Put that date.
Okay. But for design, we're probably not gonna have much in October yet,
Right.
other than it's underway and it's,
Yeah, check's been paid, they're doing their job.
You have the traffic peer review too, so you could do the traffic and civil in October.
October, yeah.
right. Okay. So a couple questions for, the petitioner and Attorney Vaughn. Has the state been notified of these changes? Has the state seen all these new plans? And like the change in the units and,
Yeah, so I think that we may have, members of the team may have communicated with Mass Housing Partnership on it, but to maybe get to your, the question, we don't feel that these are substantial enough changes that call into play the site approval letter at all in terms of that. I mean, typically, they have a requirement that if you're increasing the number of units by 10% or more, then that becomes what they call a substantial change, but here we're not doing that. And the other changes that we're proposing, I think, are really more just design and, you know, changes around the edges, so to speak. So I don't think any of, we don't believe, and I think we checked with Wendy as well.
Our 40B consultant didn't think we would have to go back to the state at all, given that it was only 4 extra units and basically the same design and floor plan, so she was comfortable with that.
and what were you saying? You said something about, what was the percentage? Is it, the percentage relates to change in units or residence?
10%.
Of the unit count, right, so.
Unit count, it doesn't
100 units
relate
ago
to
over-
square footage, so the changes in the square footage aren't, it doesn't, okay.
Because the math is all based on units, right?
Okay, I don't think we have the most recent land disposition agreement. And have you had any discussions with the select board since making these changes? Whether or not you
we-
need to, I don't, because I don't know what it says, so like, how detailed is the LDA?
Sure. I don't know what you have, I mean, there's the original LDA agreement, then where we're probably 20-something amendments to it to extend due diligence and then ultimately to address some environmental issues. So we certainly have made the select board aware of these changes. And I think, you know, my understanding is that, you know, it's debatable, I guess, as to whether it requires an amendment or whether it's considered substantial. I think we've indicated that we're comfortable with an amendment to the LDA. My understanding from the, Lisa communicating with Liz Lyden, your colleague on it, is that the board wanted to just wait until the board was further along, so.
With the thought being that if there's other changes, it might, let's
Yeah,
not do a
right.
22nd amendment or
Exactly,
whatever, right?
rather than have, you know,
Yeah, and a
a number
23rd
of
and a
other
24th.
amendments to it, right.
I mean, I think we're probably at a point where you should probably finalize the LDA, because this board needs to see it, and we haven't seen the most recent copy. So, we don't have an updated version of it. So if that means that you have to go back to select board and, you know, make a final revised LDA incorporating these changes, then I would say move forward with that.
So you want to see an amendment to the LDA reflecting the unit count changes?
Yeah, and the reduction in commercial space and all of that.
Yep, okay, that's why I'm asking the question.
I think we should see that. And if there's were there any waivers that were revised?
It might be a quick question on the LDA piece. I mean, I guess my 2 cents is if they're going through a design review, right, and if that design review changes something measurably that the LDA is impacting, do we want to wait for that to play out to get a final LDA? Because again, if we don't, they're just going to do another iteration of a new LDA.
I'd rather only do
presumably.
it once.
Right, and I think that was what we had kind of heard back, is that, you know, I don't want to put word, my understanding is that I don't believe the select board had issue with what we were talking about, but the philosophy was, let's just do it once and not keep.
Let's get to a somewhat of a fully baked project and then
Yeah.
make the LDA match. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's just that if the select board isn't going to be on board with these changes, do we really want to go down this road? You know, wait for Dennis Carlone and in November or December, and all of a sudden, the select board is like,
We don't like this anymore.
So-
yeah,
So
I mean,
why don't we get to the select board? We may not have a signed agreement by then, because in case there are other changes, but why don't we get to the select board and get them to give you a sense of the board before the October
Yeah.
28th, or whatever meeting date you have?
With this.
So you can have a sense that the increase of the unit count by 4 and the reduction in the commercial space is okay with them.
right, because it's not just the unit count, they increased the number of one-bedrooms.
Right.
Which
I
they-
didn't go through all of it,
The
but yes.
changes of care,
right.
mix of the
Right.
units, yeah.
Right,
I
so
understand.
all of those
The unit
details,
mix.
yeah, exactly. And,
And perhaps the parking design and what it is that you bring up with them.
and obviously the reduction in the commercial space.
Yes, I have it.
And that outdoor space. I mean, for example, they may even have an issue with, the artificial turf versus the grass, you just don't know. I mean,
They didn't get into that kind of detail.
They didn't get into that kind of
No,
detail?
I'm sitting
Okay.
here looking at the
Yeah.
description of the buyer's project,
okay,
and it's the number of units, and then it's generally on-street parking, passive recreation, and 6,000 square feet of commercial space. So
okay,
there's not any of that
Okay.
detail.
great.
I think it was up to 6,000 square feet
Right.
of commercial, so we weren't required to have 6,000.
And in
It was-
fact, it says up to, I'm reading it, it says
Okay.
up to 6,000 square feet.
So to your point, if we get, even it's just a letter or something from the select board saying, these changes are,
Yeah.
we're comfortable with these, we can get an LDA in due course, assuming there's no other major changes.
So has the most recent LDA been submitted to the Board of Appeals? Do we have it?
I don't know the answer to that, I don't know.
There- I mean,
Was it
I
with
think,
your submission?
I don't know if we submitted there was I misspoke, I said, I was exaggerating with 30 amendment. I think there's 21st Amendment.
21st Amendment,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, but I believe that it certainly has been executed and it's with the town. I know,
Right, I understand, but we still need, if you could coordinate that with Carla and just
Sure,
make sure
okay.
that
Yep.
she gets that and it gets uploaded so that we get it.
Yep, that's easy. I assume that's easy to do. I don't know why it would be like a protected document.
And then with regard to the LEDA, obviously, there's a number of waivers. Have any of the waivers changed?
The LGA didn't deal with the waivers.
Well, it dealt with the building fee.
Pardon me?
The building permit fee was waived.
Right, but it didn't, the detailed waiver list that was submitted as part of here,
Okay.
the Board of Selectmen did not get into those details.
Okay. But, so there's nothing else, okay.
yeah. The waivers in terms of like the dimensional waivers and things are consistent with what actually, it's fewer, to be honest with you. I think the building height before, we were at 48 feet, I believe, which would have required a waiver of up to 3 feet, and now we're fully compliant with the 45-foot height. But the other waivers, there's the FAR, we obviously need a waiver from that, and then for one of the side yards, we need a waiver, which was consistent with what we had submitted before, so.
Okay.
The building permit fee waiver is a financial issue.
Right. But that hasn't changed at all. So nothing else for the LDA has changed, okay.
On waivers, so you had a long,
Yeah.
and I gave you the comment, and I'll give it again, that I can't tell what's being waived on a lot of them. It's just a broad blanket, generalized
Yeah,
sentence, and I'd like to know what's being waived.
Apologize for that. We can maybe
I'm
try
not
to.
criticizing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we said for dimensions, refer to the table that was up there, but.
It's hard to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Sitting on the board, it's hard to do that. It's just difficult, it's a big effort. You give a generalized statement that, we're getting waivers here. And for me to go back and look at the.
Yeah, instead of
numbers.
saying section 3.1 of the zoning bylaws, you can put in section 3.1 has the following,
Yeah.
don't know it off the top of
It's
my
30
head. but-
feet and
Yeah,
we're doing
exactly.
28 feet.
Yep.
Right, okay.
That's important to me.
Carla did communicate that to me earlier this
Yeah,
week, so
I just
we're in
wanted
the
to make sure
process
you
of accommodating that, yep.
Thank you, thank you.
So do you want to do,
And some of them are there, I will say, too.
do you want to make two motions here for those?
Well, on the waivers, I don't think we need a motion. I just asked him, and he's gonna do it.
Okay.
The other thing,
We haven't talked about.
had to do with renderings. And I think at the last meeting I attended, I made the comment about the Swanton Street side. I couldn't, there's not enough of a detailed rendering to get a sense for what it's gonna, really, what is it gonna look like when you cross Washington Street and now you're headed down Swanton Street? What are, and when you're walking down Swanton Street on the other side of the street and you look at the building, what is it gonna, because, I'm rambling. It's a very important building to the town, any way you cut it, because Washington Street is a major thoroughfare and this is the major intersection on Washington Street. So anybody driving down Washington Street towards the town particularly and comes across it on the right, or coming down Park Street is gonna, you know, it's gonna be impacted by exactly what this is gonna look like. And I don't feel that I'm getting that from the drawings. I don't
Yeah.
see
David,
it.
if I may,
That's
is it just slightly different angles of that rendering?
That's
But
what
it's
we,
also coming from the other direction. So if you're
Swanton
coming,
Street side,
Yeah.
down
and the
from the dump.
architect mentioned that.
Because that's Park Street on the left there, so.
yeah, this is coming down Park.
The design team mentioned that they had, they just didn't have it, but they have a view, but they didn't present it, a view coming from Swanton Street towards Washington Street. So I think that's what you're
one
asking
thing.
for, right?
And I'd like to see I know it's not realistic as it's gonna be ultimately in place, but you did this a minute ago. Take the trees off. Let me see what the whole building is gonna look like. And for example, I wanna understand better than I think this drawing shows what the relief is going to be of the windows on the surface. It's a little, I mean, I can see that the windows are inset, but a bigger view of a much smaller piece of that drawing to show what are the windows gonna look like against the surface of the
You
building?
wanna kind of blow it up so that you can.
Yes,
I
like
just-
take the corner and that one, the first bay, and blow it way up.
Is it
What
like-
is that gonna look like?
Like this somewhat, David, behind me,
I still can't.
but more
see it.
square on.
Yeah, but I would say even larger than that.
Okay. No, I just want to try to give
Yeah,
them as
no,
much guidance
larger
as
than
possible
that.
before they draw stuff.
Because in simple terms, I'm concerned that it's going to be too unarticulated. It's gonna look too much like a flat surface, and therefore not consistent with a lot of the rest of the town. And I'll just, while I have the floor, I'll just throw out, I have trouble with the color of the building above the first floor. I don't think it,
Trouble with the
Think
color,
it-
sorry, on the first floor? So the brick
or
or?
the above,
Oh,
the
okay.
part above.
Oh,
I don't think it resonates with a lot of what's going on in the town. I understand you were looking at houses, and to me, I'll just say, to me, your building is gonna be a dominant and important feature of the town, sort of the way the town center is when you come further down the street. And so I'd like, and people are gonna be looking at it for 100 years, right? Which is good, but I'd like to see it, I'd like to see a darker color there, is what I'd actually like to see, or some further thought about that, maybe some alternatives.
Okay.
I just think it would
Yeah.
it would help you, and I
Yeah.
think it would help the town.
which presumably also would come out of a design review discussion, peer review,
It's up to
or
them,
be
but
part of that discussion.
yes. I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, I'll just blather for a moment and say otherwise, I think it's quite good. It's starting to look nice, really nice.
Thank you.
Making progress.
I just have a couple simple questions I suspect you can answer. Is the commercial space intended to be one commercial space, right? Not,
We don't know.
okay.
It could be more than one.
It could have like an entryway in to
Yes.
split out into, okay.
Yes.
And then, I think I had asked this before, but just making sure, is it still contemplated that some of the parking spots, at least for residents, are gonna be electric vehicle compatible at some
Yes.
point? Okay.
Yes.
And then, I mean, and this will come out, I suspect, in the traffic conversation, but just to plant the seed now, I think I still have some concerns about the fact that, and I'm sure you guys know this and the residents of the area know it, at any point in time, there's people backed up both on Washington going away from Winchester and Swanton going up Park, where both those entrances are to get in and out, which is, I think, will be a challenge. So just something to be mindful of, that it's always, I think, going to be
Yeah.
kind of a bit of a challenge getting in. It's a tough spot to solve for, but
Right.
but that's one concern that I have for sure. Other than that,
It's exciting.
yeah, no,
It's
I
exciting.
like the look of this. It's a measurable improvement, so.
I just had a couple of minor questions. So you had the 6 bicycle storages outside. Remind me, what did you guys have contemplated for inside? Anything?
I think there was at least another 6, 10.
10
10
inside.
inside?
Yeah.
And then, what about motorbike? I mean, would you just assume like, you know, those little scooters, electric scooters or motor scooters that a lot of people are riding, are you just thinking those are gonna take up a full regular spot at this point? I'm just thinking like just progressively, you know, if you have a lot of 1-bedroom units, you have one person living there, maybe they don't need a full car.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we've given it a lot of thought, to be honest with you, so we can discuss that.
I mean, to the comment around parking, right, it sounds like if the data is to be believed, right, there's more parking spots than demand would otherwise necessitate. So if
Right.
fewer people are using them, if they're I ride an electric scooter to work, right, if fewer people are
Right.
doing that, then that just means there's even more parking.
Right, but then you have to contemplate where they're gonna be parking the scooter. So are they gonna take up a full parking space for the scooter? Like, just,
Yeah.
I would incorporate
Or take it
those
up into their
sort of
unit.
thoughts
We
into
did, we
the
did
take
have
it up
an
in their
extra
unit,
1
we're
or
gonna
2
have to-
downstairs. I can't remember what it was, 1 or 2, but maybe we
It's
can
2.
dedicate those to scooters.
Right,
Another thing to be mindful of with those, again, having used one every day, you gotta charge them, so presumably they'll take them into their units, cause they gotta plug them in.
unless they provide more
Unless they
charging
provide- yeah,
stations
exactly.
in
So
the
just, yeah.
basement. I'm just thinking like,
Yeah.
you know, as things progress that
Sure.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, I would contemplate that you're probably gonna have a lot more e-bikes too.
Yep.
So maybe take that into account when you're doing the bike storage downstairs, that there's gonna be some e-bikes in there.
I had one other little nit, which is the banquette that people are to sit on Washington Street. I think you should rethink that, because essentially what you're suggesting is people are gonna sit on this banquette and watch the traffic go down Washington Street. And I would suggest that you might reorient that seating so that it's a comfortable sort of place for people to converse with each other rather than, it's a thought.
Yeah.
I would just think more about what's going on there, because it's a big deal for the town in a lot of ways. There are a lot of people who walk
I
back
think
and
the
forth.
prior iteration had both street facing and building facing, if I remember correctly. There's like 2 arches, so.
Yeah.
But to your point, maybe
I would
facing each other
suggest
or
facing
something.
each other and not facing the street, but I'm not telling you how to design it. I would just think a lot about that.
Okay.
I would also think about the turf, maybe the turf on the interior courtyard. I know there's some sort of high-traffic grass that they have over in Europe. They incorporate it into some grid-like pattern. I mean, just think about how, like, the residents are gonna use that space. I mean, are they really gonna be out there playing yard games? I mean,
Are you suggesting not having turf?
Considering it, yeah. That's an awfully tricky space.
Yeah.
If you make it grass, are people going to use it, or are they going to make a mess of it? If you don't make it grass, is it sort of
It's also,
unattractive?
it's also over a garage too, you
Yes,
know, which, you
yes.
know, so we're trying to be mindful of that.
Of course.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. So surrounding the turf was not grass? It was green in the color, but
Yeah,
it's
no,
not actual
there's,
grass?
I don't know which way I'm going. I think, yeah,
It's down
right there.
one.
So the green is actually
No,
going to
no,
be.
sorry, Mark,
Yep.
down
Go
one.
back one.
Yeah,
In the courtyard section?
in the courtyard. So that green, that darker green in the top right corner, That's not grass, is it?
Correct, that's going to be turf.
No, I thought the light green was turf, though.
Mike?
Yeah. This says turf, right?
Correct.
What's this?
Planting.
Oh, but not grass? Just
No.
like,
It's a raised,
oh, got it, okay.
it's
sorry. Yeah,
vegetated.
sorry.
But it has to be raised because we're on top of a concrete
Okay.
structure. So, as far as the artificial turf, we'll take a look at it. I'm not married to it. But it
There's
needs a
no-
little more
there's-
thought, that's
There's
fine.
no easy solution
And
there.
and the benches too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
There's plenty of rooftops one can look at in terms of how they've landscaped them.
Tons of stuff you can
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Anything else? Any other comments, Andrew?
Do we want to schedule, do we want to do schedule before we get to open it up?
I have a couple of thoughts. I wrote a couple of things down.
Yeah, go ahead. Hop in.
So, do I remember right that the prior design had some open parking that could sort of have a hybrid use as you needed it for either to assign to residents or to, use if you need more commercial parking or whatever else?
It did. It had, same as what we're proposing here in terms of it being accessed off of Washington Street, but if you may recall, it had almost like an arched entry to it. And that was gonna be parking for both the commercial and some residential parking there as well, but we're.
So I think what's interesting, and I think you reacted to, people saying you want the separate parking for the residents, et cetera, but now if your sort of thesis is correct and there's gonna be a low take rate for residential parking, you might end up with an excess that can't be accessed by anybody else other than residents, right? And you're left with 11 spaces, of which one is a handicap space. Presumably, you're gonna have a leasing office and you have some future resident type of off-street parking. So I think you're gonna end up with, not a lot of parking for visitor or, retail shoppers or whatever it is. And you have a little bit of lawn there next to it and things like that. It's just something to think about, because if you end up with a garage that's 70% full, but you can't use those spaces for anything else because they have to be controlled with the garage access, right, that only residents can get into, you might end up with an excess there and then a shortage sort of on the outside.
We could shuffle employee parking downstairs if we have an excess and open up some more upstairs just for
Yeah.
regular use.
And then the one thing that kind of jumped out at me, and I mean, I'm not an expert, traffic studies make me cross-eyed, but I don't know how you increase unit count and end up with fewer trips during peak times. I would just sort of question that result,
I
just
think that
from a
was
logical
due to
perspective.
commercial
Yeah.
more than residential traffic flow.
I think that's right. I mean, I'll play traffic engineer for a minute, but my understanding is that the reduction of the commercial from 5,600 to 3,800 did generate more of a decrease in peak hour traffic than what 4 additional
I see.
one-bedroom units would generate, so, yeah.
And what was this sort of, I'm jumping around, but what was the main kind of driver of this redesign? Is this more cost effective? Is sort of the yield better once the thing's, up and running? Or is it some of both? Kind of.
It was a combination of both, the marketability of the whole building with the layout of the amenities inside and a bigger amenity area, phys ed room, bigger lobby, direct access, and then just the sheer building itself the footprint was reduced. We thought some of the units were probably too big for what the market was, and, so it was a combination of a number of factors, both market of what people are looking for in the market with the amenities and making the building a little bit more efficient.
I just have one quick corollary that you reminded me of with your comment about commercial space. And it goes back to my question about how many things are in that commercial space. Does that impact number of, if there's 4 commercial units within that space, is that different than just one big commercial space from a number of trips per day traffic-wise?
You would think so, but
Is
You just-
it marginal difference or?
Yeah, you just don't know really, I don't know.
Yeah, the way we estimated it is, it was just one space.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily, translate to more trips if you carve it up.
You have,
Because it could be, you may have some retail, quote unquote retail, and then you may have some service type business, and we estimated it all as retail. So
Is
the
survey-
retail would generate more traffic.
I was gonna ask a survey, if it's a small coffee shop, is that fewer or more trips than if it was a store?
Yeah, right, so that's more trips than if it was a store. Or if it was like a, I don't know, like a travel agency or
Yeah.
something.
Or a
Not a
photo
lot of
shop,
trips.
which I can finally go get my passport pictures done again.
There you go.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, I just want to be mindful, if that mix changes the traffic impact, I guess is where I'm going with that, so, because, as I mentioned, that's still something that gives me a little concern is the traffic, so, okay. Do we want to play a scheduling game, or do we want to open it for public comment first before we get to trying to figure out
Let's
next
play
dates?
scheduling game.
Okay.
So,
All right, get out the old calendars.
Carla has kindly provided us with some possible dates for the next meeting. Tuesday, October 21st. Thursday, October 23rd. Tuesday, October 28th. Thursday, October 30th. So you're getting your wish of late October.
30th doesn't work for me. The other three do.
It can't be Tuesday, oh.
21, 23, 28 are okay with me.
I gotta check multiple calendars. First. 23rd does not work for me. Otherwise, everything's good.
I think the 28th won't work for Jay or I,
Okay.
Okay.
so is it need the 21st?
I like the 21st.
You like the 21st?
I do.
Me too.
21st, everything works for me but the 28th, so I don't know if,
So the 21st is good for everybody.
and the 30th you said doesn't work for you? Sorry,
Right.
okay. How about you guys on your end? I know you got a bigger collection of folks to line up.
21st.
Yeah, no, we can,
Might be a little tight for us, but we'll,
well, it might be tight, I'm just
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking
trying
about
for that.
VHB,
Yep.
but at a minimum, I think the tool design would be done, maybe VHB's kind of partially into it, and they can still participate, or, it really depends how much time they need,
Yeah.
once they get going next week, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I guess, sounds
Is-
like that's the date unless we look into November, so let's shoot for it, and worst
Okay.
case, we just get through traffic and we have to do,
While we're talking about dates, we're gonna need an extension.
yeah, I was gonna ask.
So I
Yes.
wanna make sure you can get us that in writing, because
Sure.
November would be the 6 months, so we can do that, maybe,
Okay.
Take us to January, that gets us through your design and everything, and we should be able to go from there.
Not a problem, okay?
And I don't know if it makes sense to look at November dates yet, or let's see what happens with October? Or do we
No,
wanna
we
lock
can look at
something in 'cause
November.
it's- Okay,
Well, I mean, we can just talk
at least see.
theoretically
yeah,
about
exactly, if it-
November,
yep.
so, November 12th is a Wednesday, Tuesday, November 18th, and I don't think anyone's gonna wanna do this, but Tuesday, November 25th.
Hard pass. The 12th and the 18th.
I mean-
12th, I can't do the 12th.
Okay,
This is,
The
wait a minute, this is November, right?
Yes.
this is November, yeah, and November's just hard, because town meeting is the
What was the-
3rd, 6th, 10th, 13th, Veterans Day is the 11th.
12th or
12th or
18th?
18th, yeah, because no one's gonna wanna do Thanksgiving week, so.
18 I can do.
You can do the 18th?
Mm-hmm.
I can do the 18th, how about everyone else?
Fine.
Someone said they couldn't do the 18th.
Who said they couldn't do the 18th?
I thought David did, sorry.
No, I
Oh,
can do
okay,
the
I can, yeah, I can do the 18th. So if we wanna soft pencil that one.
Lisa, you,
Yeah, that's fine.
somebody, okay. We'll confirm that at the next meeting, but, okay, so I'm gonna hold off on making the motion to continue, because I'm gonna go back and open this for public comment. Unless you have anything else. Additional, nothing else?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
30 minutes in your time frame, just so,
What do you mean?
if we want to stick to 8:45, we got 25 minutes or so for public comment, if we want to stick to that.
Yeah. Okay, is there anyone here from the public that wants to comment on the project? Come on up and introduce yourself, please.
Ted Fitzgerald, I live at 6 Spruce Street, which is 2 blocks down Swanton Street. And I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness to this, but the reason I'm here is that living next to this thing for 15 years is a disaster. And I think it really depresses that area, obviously, but the buildings next to it. You know, we went through the whole mega CVS, it seemed like. My son was 4 years old. So anything you can do, and I appreciate all your comments about the different things, but anything you can do to make this faster, you know, because I've lived on Spruce Street for 20 years, and 15 of it has been living next to a disaster. And I grew up here. And really, I just came here just to see what's going on, but, you know, I implore you, like, some of these small issues, like, you just have to have something there, because there's graffiti, it's disgusting. So, that's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Oh, there's somebody behind you, so.
Hello. Greg Chastain, 266 Washington Street. We're 2 blocks from the monstrosity he's talking, 2 houses from that monstrosity he's talking about. I just had a couple of quick questions about the commercial. Will parking be allowed on Washington like it is now, or is that going to be gone? Because right now you can park in front of what's there.
It will remain.
Sorry?
We figured about 4 spaces out front there.
Okay. The other thing about the commercial parking lot, on Main Street, there's a lot of areas where you can't make a left. They force you to make a right out of some of those buildings there. So there's signs. I mean, people still make a left. It's Winchester. But if making a left out of that, because I live off of Oak, and we can't, in the mornings, we can't make lefts. We have to go down to Swanton and come around and come out. So if that commercial there can possibly be just a right turn out instead of trying to get out a left, like they do on Main Street in some of the businesses there.
It's not something that we control.
What do you mean?
It's traffic control. We don't control traffic.
Well, we're talking about traffic,
There are other departments in the town hall that control that.
Correct, but
We could condition something like that,
You could,
presumably, right?
you could condition that on exiting that.
the developer can work with the
Right.
town
Okay.
to make that a right-hand turn.
If you've ever
only.
tried to make a right on Washington Street,
Yeah.
I'm
Just
okay with
letting you know.
working with with doing what you said. I'm just saying, I don't think we're in a position to say that's what it's gonna be.
No, we're not in a position, but we can certainly,
just a recommendation.
yeah.
We understand it and we will help you.
Is it only the Washington Street exit that you're concerned about?
Yes, because I can make, when I go on West Swanton, it's pretty easy to make a right or a left there. So it's really Washington, especially during, like, from 7 to 9 when the schools are going, you can't make a left out of there.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe,
time
could
constraint.
we
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
a time limit on it?
Yeah, that would be a good recommendation, too.
Right, because
And again,
it's
it's
like,
just a sign, people do what they want, but at least there's some, yeah.
You're talking-
Oh, yeah, I've almost got killed on the Main Street, too.
Just so I'm clear, you're talking about coming up Oak to Washington and, for example, making a left onto Washington.
Yeah, we come out Oak every day, and we can never make a left during rush hour. We always have to go the other way, Swanton, and then we make a left on Washington at the light, because it's just, you can't do it.
right, I mean, I can't imagine it's actually even feasible during rush hour to make a left out of that commercial space,
be
because
sitting there
they're gonna be sitting there with that light.
Yeah.
Right, correct.
Just, 2 more quick questions, sorry. Just because I saw the first, so is the right gonna be the commercial now, and the right part of that is all the commercial, or does it go across Washington? I'm just looking at the turrets there, or whatever they're called. He said the right side is the commercial entrance
That one
on
with
the
the
corner
color,
of Swanton.
the pink color on it might be the helpful one. Yeah.
It's, okay, thank you, that's what I was looking
Yeah,
for.
so the entrance is off Washington, but.
Perfect, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
And the last question I had, we asked this when we first started back in, I don't know how long we've been dealing with this. Is commercial a nice to have, or is it a zoning issue that they have to have commercial? Is it a requirement, or is it just a nice to have?
It's a requirement per the LDA, which was an agreement the select board made with the developer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all very much. We can't wait to get this going.
Thank you.
Yep, come on up.
Hello, I'm Terrence Hamilton from 287 Washington Street. So I live basically right across the street from the development. And one of the questions I had is, it looks like from the pictures, I'm curious how far it looks like there's a recess from the sidewalk. I'm just curious how far back is that going to be, where the building starts, the distance from the curb to the beginning of the building, then that recess that's right behind it.
Do you still, yeah, I think last time you guys had that dimension, is it?
What's the front yard setback?
Yeah.
The front yard setback is 15 feet, but the property line is not on the curb.
Okay, it's on the curb line, so it's 15 feet, okay.
Plus 15, please, plus the side.
Okay, from the property line. Okay, so it's a little bit further back from that, okay.
So
What did you say, how many feet from the curb do you estimate it is?
I think it's over 20 feet,
Over 20?
because I think you get like a
How is it,
10-foot sidewalk.
I was gonna say, how is it in relation to what it was before? Because when we did the
8 and a half feet.
site visit, we spent a lot of time looking at that dimension.
It's an 18-foot building now.
So how far away am I from you? About 20 feet?
Hold on, let me get my measure app out.
25. So that's quite a distance from the,
But you have a public
Yeah.
sidewalk.
There is, if we have the survey plan, there is a built-in setback building line in this area of Washington Street, so the building can't come forward.
uh-huh.
I think that was 15 feet. It's 15 feet from the property line, there's a building line that says you can't come before that.
15 feet, and then the property line to the curb is roughly,
Site plan?
Yeah, that's
so
what it
it's
says.
25 feet you're talking about.
Is there a site plan?
On the, yeah, there is, but
I think she's
I don't
got
know if we're gonna be able to zoom in well enough. Oh, no, it's right there.
So the dashed line is the property line, I think, correct? So you're 15 feet back from the dashed line, and then how wide is the sidewalk?
I'll pull up site plans.
This
That is an exhibit plan that does not have everything on it.
Yeah, no.
So if we go to the, yeah, there we go.
Is it in this one?
So you get a 9-foot sidewalk, and then,
Property, this is the setback,
and there's the setback line, and then you've got an arcade that goes further than that, so you're,
and our property line is setback. So to here is probably 20 feet.
20
To the
feet.
front of the arcade,
20 feet to the front of the arcade,
From where?
from the curb.
from the curb line. So let's see if I get some dimensions.
Would you like it
City
closer, would
planners.
you like it closer to the street?
Yeah, city planners wouldn't like that.
Really?
Yeah, because a human being
No, we don't.
judges their motion along the sidewalk
That's what the
against
building
the
line is from.
facade of the
I'm
building.
looking at you, the architect can speak up over here.
We have to
I feel
hold.
like having more open space would be,
Right
Yeah,
now,
that's what I'd like
like,
to.
what they've presented feels reasonable to me. I didn't, having done presentations like this in my former life, everything that you proposed seemed very reasonable proportionally. Sir, do you have,
Just gonna clarify, there is a easement or a building line along this section of Washington Street, which sets back 12 feet
from the property line. The property line is about 9 feet from the curb. So you're talking
21
22
feet.
feet or so is where that building line would be.
And is your concern more is better? Or you want it
More is
close?
better
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
what I'm
yes,
guessing.
yes.
So,
I like
yeah.
it further back, just from a perspective point of view.
So you preferred that you were looking, you like, did you
More
like what
space.
you,
Yeah,
more
there's not
space?
a house
More
that's,
space,
it's not
yeah,
as close
more
to his
space.
home.
Yeah,
as-
exactly, yeah, otherwise it's like a big wall,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
How
so
far
it'll
back
give
is
you
the
relief.
facade?
Yes,
We are not
that's
on
all.
that building line, so if I can just like point up here. If we all can follow this is the 12-foot building line that I'm talking about. That's something on the survey that says the building line can't be closer than 12 feet to the property line. Some ancient thing, I don't know where it came from. We're 9 feet in front of that, and if you look at the building, we're another 9 or 10 feet back from that, in this area. Over here, on the residential lobby, it's a couple feet back. So over here, you're about 21 feet from the curb. Back here, you're pushing 28 to 30.
Okay.
30
It's
feet.
pretty, it's set back.
28
pretty
feet.
good.
Yeah, I live in the corner, so that's better for me then,
Yeah, oh,
actually.
it's
And
set
where
back
is,
pretty good.
where is the setback right now of the building that's there?
It's on that building line. It's about on that building line.
So you're pushing not pushing, the facade will be another 5 feet at least.
Or more.
Which I think
8
in the
feet
prior
back
design
from
was that
the
same way, because
facade.
we spent a lot of time in our site visit going over that
That's what they were calling the
facade.
arcade.
Yeah.
The arcade is that space sort of between the property line and the building itself.
But that facade
I
looks
see.
like it's sticking out on the corner side. Yeah, that's-
So if you're walking along Washington,
That's a rendering.
Oh, okay,
This is the-
okay.
This is the plan.
Oh, okay,
What
okay.
you're seeing over there is landscaping and some steps and this and that. It probably makes
Okay.
it look further. You know, you're looking at this type of thing, not the building. The building's back there.
Okay.
Massing of the
We
building
overhang
is-
in that area? No, there's no overhang there. So
No,
previously, the
There
previous
was, yeah.
design, that came out, there was an overhang.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
So you were covered.
Are the two towers even with each other on Washington Street, or is one set back a little?
The building is not parallel to the street, parallel to Washington Street, so
Right.
the commercial tower projects a little bit farther than the residential tower, which is at 2 feet, and the commercial tower projects about 4 feet. But they're both beyond that 15-foot beyond, which includes the 12-foot.
Did I answer the question, sir?
Yes, you,
Okay,
thank you,
great,
yeah,
thanks.
thank you. I had another question. The town, I think the town, all the towns are required to have, not subsidized, but affordable housing at 10%. And this project will have 25%, is that correct? Is that the plan?
That's correct.
Okay, 25%, so 16 units would be affordable housing. So I guess, well, you know, is that, why is that? Is it because we're behind on other units and it's just to catch up? Is that the point?
What I'm not sure I understand is why we're doing affordable housing
No,
on this
no,
property.
why is it 25%, not 10%? That's the
Oh.
question.
Because it's a 40B project, a comprehensive permit project, and they're required to be 25%. And since it's rental, the town gets to count all 64 units, not just the affordable units. And all of those get counted towards what they call the town's subsidized housing inventory, which
Okay.
helps them have more control in the future projects.
Okay. Okay, and then just my last question, what's the rental for the full price for a one-bedroom before the affordable discounts? What's just an idea?
You want the market rate?
Yeah, the
right?
market, what is it gonna be, the market rate
Well,
roughly?
the range is 3,200.
3,200 for one bedroom.
36,
Okay.
in that range.
Okay,
that's
3,200, okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, just, yeah, that sounds,
And the affordable is 80% area median income.
right, from the income of the town, so you're not gonna get, you're gonna get good people coming in here, these are gonna be like good families, good people moving in, right? People who, yeah, because the town's already at a high level, so, yeah.
Well,
makes sense.
it's 80% of the median income for the area, so
think it's
not
just Winchester,
just
but,
Winchester.
right.
It's like the broader, isn't it like, I believe it's like Boston Metro, correct?
It's a broader area, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So what is that?
But it's still quite high.
Okay, it's still quite high, okay.
I mean, I think relatively speaking.
80% area median income rents will be close to the market rate rents.
3,200, okay. Yeah, my wife's a real estate agent, that sound right, 3,000 for a one bedroom? 3,000 rent? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other comments from?
Hi, everyone. Michelle Bloomsack, 21 Chester Street. First, I want to say that this design looks fantastic, so much better. But I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the concern of my neighborhood on coming onto Swanton Street. So it is already a challenge taking a left onto Swanton Street. We cycle through lights waiting, and with the outlet where it is, this is absolutely going to be impossible. So I just want to put that on the record.
It's because the cars back up down Swanton when the lights red.
And they're already on the side, so if anyone's going to go first, it's going to be the people coming out of the parking lot.
Are you commenting on Washington Street backup or
Swanton, Swanton going to Washington Street.
So you're on Swanton and now you're making a left onto Washington Street.
I'm trying to get onto Swanton, so I'm trying to make a left onto
On Swanton.
Swanton.
She's
and-
coming out Chester there at the top, right, presumably?
Exactly.
She's trying to make a left, but the people in the building are gonna be making a right.
Yeah.
Right, so they're gonna get
They're gonna
priority,
stack
and it's
up.
already difficult making the left onto
So
Swanton.
you could have the traffic engineer address that and look at the queuing that exists and when it exists. And
I know
what
that
the
was part of the
conflict-
scope that we had.
Right, and
yeah.
whether or not there's gonna be a conflict depending on the timing of it.
Okay, so anyways, just wanted to put that on
Yep,
record.
no, thank you.
And the next meeting that we are proposing, which is October 21st, we're going to be hopefully
should be, have
addressing,
traffic,
we
yeah.
should be addressing traffic. No
Perfect.
promises, but
Okay,
that's what we're hoping to do.
all right, thanks, everybody.
Any other comments or questions from the public? Okay.
To be continued.
To be continued, yeah.
Right, motion to that?
So we picked, I just want to make sure, October 21st, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I move that we
So-
continue, I'm sorry, I
No,
apologize.
yeah, I was going to do the same thing, but you go
I
ahead.
move that we continue the discussion of
Well, we're continuing the hearing.
continuing the hearing
For petitions
for petition,
E25-40B-1.
exactly, until the meeting in October 21,
At 7 PM.
At 7 PM.
7 p.m.
in this room, at this table, with the audience sitting back there, and council
I
at the
second.
corner.
Before he goes too far, I second.
All in favor?
Hi, Mark Anderson.
Aye, Dorothy Savoli.
I gotta think about it. I, David Feigenbaum. I guess
Good.
I passed.
Okay,
That's all we have.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Hi, Mark Anderson.
Aye, Dorothy Savoli.
I, David Feigenbaum.
Good job, team.